Hey, hi everyone, welcome back to this video series on Windows Server 2016. Do not use the Get Started wizard. After making the necessary design decisions and implementing the prerequisites we have talked about so far, it is finally time to install the remote access role onto your new server, onto your new DirectAccess server. After you have finished installing the role, similar to many roles in Windows Server 2016, you will be prompted that additional configuration is required in order to use this role. In fact, if you follow the yellow exclamation mark inside Server Manager, the only option that you are presented with is open the Getting Started wizard. This is not what you want to click on. Your home for DirectAccess configuration is the Remote Access Management Console, which is available from inside the Tools menu of Server Manager. Now that our remote access role has been installed, go ahead, launch that. And now we are presented with a choice. Do not click on run the Getting Started wizard. The GSW is a shortcut method to implementing DirectAccess designed only for getting DA up and running as quickly as possible. Perhaps for a quick proof of concept, under no circumstances should you trust the GSW for your production DA environment, because in an effort to make configuration quick and easy, many configuration decisions are made for you that are not best practice. You want to make sure and click on Run the Remote Access Setup Wizard instead when you are first prompted in this console, which will invoke the full set of DirectAccess configuration screens. The setup of DA is a series of 4 different steps, each containing a handful of screens that you will navigate through to choose your appropriate configuration options. There is good detail on these screens as to what each of them means and what your options are. So don't be afraid to dive in and set this up in the proper way. If you have already configured DirectAccess and used the Getting Started wizard, DA may be working for you, but it is not running as efficiently or securely as it could be. The following is a quick list of reasons why the Getting Started wizard is not in your best interests. These are the things that it does which go directly against the best practices DirectAccess install. GSW co-hosts the NLS website on the DA server. GSW applies the DA client GPO settings to the main computers. GSW utilizes self-signed certificates, which is a general security no-no. GSW automatically disables Torito. GSW does not walk you through any of the advanced options for DirectAccess, probably because the way that it sets up everything, up invalidates your ability to even use the advanced functions. Remote Access Management Console. You are well on your way to giving users remote access capabilities on this new server. As with many networking devices, once you have established all of your configurations on a remote access server, it is pretty common for admins to walk away and let it run. There is no need for a lot of ongoing maintenance or changes to that configuration once you have it running well. However, Remote Access Management Console in Windows Server 2016 is useful not only for configuration of the remote access parts and pieces, but for monitoring and reporting as well. Let's take a look inside this console so that you are familiar with the different screens you will be interacting with. Configuration. The configuration screen is pretty self-explanatory. This is where you would visit in order to create your initial remote access configuration and where you go to update any settings in the future. As you can see in the screenshot, you are able to configure DirectAccess, VPN, and the web application proxy right from this remote access management console. There is not a lot of configuration as far as the VPN goes. You really only have one screen of options where you define what kind of IP addresses are handed down to the VPN clients connecting in and how to handle VPN authentication. It is not immediately obvious where this screen is, so I wanted to point it out. Inside the DirectAccess and VPN configuration section, if you click on Edit button listed under Step 2, this will launch the Step 2 mini wizard. The last screen of this mini wizard is called VPN configuration. This is the screen where you can configure these IP addresses and authentication settings for your VPN connections. Dashboard. The remote access dashboard gives you a 30,000 foot view of the remote access server status. You are able to view a quick status of the components running on the server, whether or not the latest configuration changes have been rolled around, and some summary numbers near the bottom about how many direct access and VPN connections are happening. Operation status. If you want to drill down further into what is happening on the server side of the connections, this is what the operating status page is all about. Here you can see a little more detail on each of the components that are running under the hood to make your DA and VPN connections happen. If any of them have an issue, you can click on the specific component to get a little more information. For example, as a test, I have turned off the NLS on web server in my lab network, and I can now see in the operations status page that NLS is flagged with an error. Remote client status. Next up is the remote client status screen. As indicated, this is a screen where we can monitor the client computers who are connected. It will show us both direct access and VPN connections here. We will be able to see computer names, usernames, and even the resources that they are utilizing during their connections. The information on this screen is able to be filtered by simply putting any criteria into the search bar on the top of the window. It is important to note that the remote client status screen only shows live active connections. There is no historical information stored here. Reporting. You guessed it. This is the window you need to visit if you want to see historical remote access information. This screen is exactly almost the same as the remote client status screen, except that you have the ability to generate reports for historical data pulled from date ranges of your choosing. Once the date is displayed, you have the same search and filtering capabilities that you had on the remote client status screen. Reporting is disabled by default, but you simply need to navigate to the reporting page and click on Configure Accounting. Once this is enabled, you will be presented with options about storing the historical information. You can choose to store data in the local WID or on a remote radius server. You also have options here for how long to store logging data and a mechanism that can be used to clear out old data. Task. The last window pane of remote access management console that I want to point out is the taskbar on the right side of your window. The actions and options that are displayed in this taskbar change depending on what part of the console you are navigating through. Make sure to keep an eye on this side of your screen for setting up some of the more advanced functions. Some examples of available tasks are creating usage reports, refreshing the screen, and configuring network load balancing or multi-site configurations if you are running multiple remote access servers. DirectAccess versus VPN. VPN has been around for a very long time, making it a pretty familiar idea to anyone working in IT, and we've discussed quite a bit about DirectAccess today in order to bring you up to speed on this evolution, so to speak, of corporate remote access. Now that you know there are two great solutions built into Windows Server 2016 for enabling your mobile workforce. While DirectAccess is certainly newer of the technologies, we cannot say that it is better in all circumstances. Each has its pros and cons. And the ways that you use each or both will depend upon many variables: your users, your client computers, and your organization's individual needs. You need to factor into your own decision-making process. Let's discuss some of the differences between DirectAccess and VPN so that you can better determine which is right for you. Domain joined versus non-domain joined. One of the biggest requirements for a direct access client computer is that it must be domain joined. While this requirement by itself doesn't seem so major, what it implies can be pretty vast. Trusting a computer enough to be joined to your domain more than likely means that the laptop is owned by the company. It also probably means that this laptop was first in IT's hands in order to build and prep it. Companies that are in habit of allowing employees to purchase their own computers to be used for work purposes may not find DirectAccess to fit well with that model. DA is also not ideal for situations where employees use their existing home computers to connect into work remotely. In these kinds of situations, such as home and personally owned computers, VPN may be better suited to the task. You can connect to a VPN from a non-domain joined machine, and you can even establish VPN connections from many non-Microsoft devices: iOS, Android, Windows Phone. These are all platforms that have a VPN client built into them so that you can tap into a VPN licenser on a Windows Server 2016 remote access server. If your only remote access solution was DirectAccess, you would not be able to provide non-domain joined devices with a connectivity platform. Auto versus manual launch. Here, DirectAccess takes the cake. It is completely seamless. DirectAccess components are baked right into the Windows operating system. No software VPN is going to be able to touch that level of integration. With VPN, users have to log into their computers to unlock them, then launch their VPN, then log in again so that VPN software, all before they can start working on anything. With DirectAccess, all they need to do is log into the computer to unlock the screen. DirectAccess activates itself in the background so that as soon as the desktop loads for the user, they simply open the applications that they need to access, just like when they are inside the office. Software versus built-in. I'm a fan of IKEA furniture. They do a great job of supplying quality products at low cost, all while packaging it up in incredibly small boxes. After you pay for the product, unbox the product, put product together and then test the product to make sure it works, it's great. If you can't see where this is going, I'll give you a hint. It's an analogy for VPN, as in you typically pay a vendor for their VPN product, unbox the product, implement the product at more expense, then test the product. That VPN software then has the potential to break and need reinstallation or reconfiguration, and will certainly come with software updates that need to be accomplished down the road. Built-ins are essentially furniture that is permanent to the house, built right into the walls, corners, or whatever it happens to be. It adds a value and it integrates into the overall house much better than furniture that was pieced together separately and then stuck against the wall in the corner. DirectAccess is like a built-in. It is inside the operating system. There is no software installed, no software to update, no software to reinstall when it breaks. Everything that DA needs is already in Windows today. You just aren't using it. Oh, and it's free. Well, built into the cost of your Windows license anyway. There are no other CALs, no ongoing license costs related to implementing Microsoft DirectAccess password and login issues with VPN. If you've ever worked on a help desk for a company that uses VPN, you know what I'm talking about. There are a series of common troubleshooting calls that happen in the VPN world related to passwords. Sometimes the user forgets their password. Perhaps their password has expired and needs to be changed. VPN doesn't handle this scenario very well either. Or maybe the employee changed their expired password on their desktop before they left for work for the day, but are now trying to log in remotely from their laptop and it isn't working. What is the solution to password problems with VPN? Reset the user's password and then make the user come into the office in order to make it work on their laptop. Yup. These kinds of phone calls still happen every day. This is unfortunate, but a real potential problem with VPN. What's the good news? DirectAccess doesn't have these kinds of problems since DA is part of the operating system. It has the capability to be connected anytime that Windows is online. This includes the login screen, even if I'm sitting on the login or lock screen and the system is waiting for me to input my username and password. As long as I have internet access, I also have a direct access tunnel. This means that I can actively do password management tasks. If my password expires and I need to update it, it works. If I forgot my password and I can't get into my laptop, I call the help desk and simply ask them to reset my password. I can then immediately log into my DirectAccess laptop with the new password right from my house. Another cool function that this seamless enables is the ability to log with new user accounts. Have you ever logged into your laptop as a different user in order to test something? Yup, that works over DirectAccess as well. For example, I'm sitting at home and I need to help one of the sales guy troubleshoot some sort of file permission problem. I suspect it's got something to do with his user account. So I want to log into my laptop as him in order to test it. The problem is that his user account has never logged into my laptop before. With VPN, not a chance. This would never work. With DirectAccess, piece of cake. I simply log off, type in his username and password, and I'm logged in. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.